we will be attempting, keyword, to discuss the United States involvement in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, specifically how our sanctions have affected Russia so far, and whether or not we should directly engage Russian forces. So, Esther,
That's me.
do you know anything about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict?
Can I can I can I can I break down my understanding of it?
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So basically Russia has been trying to be correct me if I'm wrong, but no, not Russia, the other one. Ukraine
You're wrong.
has been trying to Ukraine has been trying to become a part of NATO for like a long time, and they're like half members. They're like basically like the water boys of the NATO team or something, I guess. And like now Russia is like, no, I want you back, like a toxic ex-boyfriend. And they started a war. That's really what I know. And the US doesn't really know what to do because um they're not really a part of NATO, and Russia's like threatening to basically destroy anybody who gets in his way from getting Ukraine. And I think every other country's kind of terrified. That's my understanding.
Yeah, basically, Ukraine split from Russia during the 80s, I believe, might have been a little bit earlier. Um, During the late 80s, Ukraine made a deal with both the United States and Russia to completely remove their nuclear weapons program, which is literally the great equalizer in modern war conflicts. The idea is that everyone's too afraid to really fuck with each other because at any moment anybody could end it all for everyone.
Mhm.
So to have a nation as large as Ukraine completely give up its nuclear weapons was a big task. Um, Pardon me. The agreement that Ukraine came into with at the time the Soviet Union and the United States military, or just the United States government, was that if they were to remove their nuclear weapons program, both countries would A, not invade them, and B, provide, at the very least, minimal protection and assistance in the case of warfare against Ukraine.
So Ukraine wasn't even a country until the 80s?
Well, um, I'm not an expert on it, so it was around that time, pretty much 70s or 80s. Ukraine basically was a part of Russia. They separated. They had their independence. Um, During the mid to 2010s, around like 2014, there was a smaller conflict in eastern Ukraine where Russian loyalists basically wanted to go back into Russia. And of course, the Russian government obviously backed that. The Soviet Union fell apart in the 90s. They became a official capitalist country. And it was around that time that Vladimir Putin, ex KGB, rose to power, I believe, as prime minister. He
Mhm.
has basically been in high positions of power since the 90s, both as president and prime minister. Either way, he's been pretty much calling the shots in Russia for the last 22 years. Um, Being ex-Soviet himself, he is a very longing person for those old days, it would seem. So in 2014, he obviously backed the Ukrainian separatist movement. That led to a smaller military conflict. Max, stop spamming the. I
I can
see the
hear
little
that.
hand. Stop that. Um, So Russia backed the separatist movement in 2014, which did lead to smaller military conflicts and some questionable acts on both sides. The main one on Ukraine's side that's led to a lot of controversy surrounding it is the employment of the Azov battalion, or Azov, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. The Azov battalion is a white nationalist group in Ukraine, and they were basically hired as soldiers of fortune or just really, mercenaries for hire under the Ukrainian National Guard at the time to help support Ukraine during the Russian conflict. After, granted, the Eastern conflict never really ended. It just kind of phased into the background with high tensions. But during that time, between 2014 to now, the Azov battalion has been allowed to remain a part of the Ukrainian government as their National Guard, with some of their party members joining political seats in Ukrainian government systems. So when people say like Ukraine is full of like Nazis and all that, they're referring to the Azov battalion. And I want it to be said that regardless of your views on that, the Azov battalion numbers at most 1,000 people. They are not a major part of the Ukrainian government, let alone Ukraine as a whole. They are, in fact, rather minuscule when compared to neo-Nazi movements here in North America, in the United States and Canada, specifically. I'm not sure about in Mexico. They are a very small part, but they are a prominent part of recent Ukrainian history, so that has led to a lot of controversy. I don't know if you remember, Esther, we actually had a member of the battalion here in the server.
Yeah, that was horrifying.
Yes, that was quite interesting when he would get drunk and try to invite people to his home. That was an interesting event.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, do you remember how he offered to
Oh.
buy you plane tickets?
Yes, I remember. He was like, "You
For
can stay in my
a white
home with me
nationalist,
and
he
my
really liked
wife and my child
for a
as well.
yeah,
I'll show you how
for a
to
white
make a fire
nationalist, he
and
was
hunt
really
deer." And I was like,
then he just kept like going on cryptic rants about war crimes.
yes.
That was
We
something.
we should get
One
him
of the
back
many
here.
whack jobs we've had in here.
One of the many. No, he wasn't in the
He's
lore
one.
video. He wasn't in
He's
it.
one of like 5 terrorists we've had in iDebates.
Let's not say that. Let's. iDebates is not affiliated with any illegal activity whatsoever. This is
We do not
simply.
condone mass murdering or government killing.
Yeah.
Mostly. Anyway.
No.
Anyway, so yeah,
Remember that guy? That's crazy.
That's pretty much what's happened up until the 2020s. In 2019, President Zelensky, he was a former stand-up comedian and then actor. I believe he was in a TV show where he actually played the Ukrainian president. And he apparently was so good at it that people kept telling him to actually run for president. So lo and behold, here we are, 2019. He gets elected. Zelensky is the Jewish grandson of World War II survivors. I believe the grandson. Might be son. I'm not sure. Basically, his family was Jewish. He had people that died due to Nazi occupation. He isn't really alt-right nationalist in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, he is still allowing things like the Azov battalion to continue. Though granted, the man has only been in office like 2 years, so can't judge him too harshly.
Mm-hmm. So what what are the political linings of Ukraine?
Uh, I'll be honest, I'm not too sure. And I will be the first to admit that I'm a ignorant American and
No,
that
no, no. It's really me.
I wasn't really obviously I'm aware of Ukraine, but I wasn't too aware of the situation going on there until this past like month and a half. Um, they are a very divided nation. I know that they do have a large amount of Russian loyalists. Pretty much all of eastern Ukraine, far eastern Ukraine, is Russian loyalists. But at the same time, they're very mixed bag. They do have some nationalist movements. They do have right wing, left wing.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot like America in the sense that they don't have one specified party alignment. They are a very divided nation. Um, that being said, regardless of political affiliations, this Ukrainian conflict has not been good for anyone, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And almost the entire nation has really rallied together over there. Um, Ukraine is like I say, a very large nation. I believe they're like number one in agricultural production in Europe. They provide a lot of Europe with grain. At one time, they were like the largest pork supplier, I believe. That's why they're associated with pigs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So this conflict, even if we weren't slapping sanctions on Russia, just Ukraine falling would be a very hard economic blow to the rest of the Europe, the rest of the world,
Yeah, the rest of the Europe.
the rest of the Europe's one of many.
Huh.
Um. So, when did they first invade? Last Friday, I believe it.
Yeah, yes. At the time of this
They've
video.
at the time of this video, Russia has invaded last Friday. Uh, they've been amassing troops around the Ukrainian border for pretty much the entirety of this year so far. They've been reports of Russian tanks and soldiers in the area since as early as January 3rd. Um, no one at first really thought they were going to invade, and up until last Friday, it has been a very big game of will they, won't they. Uh, Vladimir Putin finally made the push where he didn't technically declare war. He declared a military operation to, quote, denazify Ukraine.
What does that mean?
Sorry, Grandmore.
It's okay.
That ties back into the Azov battalion thing. But again, very minute part of the government, even compared to places like America. It's a small movement.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest fear Russia really has with Ukraine is that for a long time now, Ukraine, especially under Zelensky, has been trying to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and the European Union, the EU. What that would mean if they would join the NATO, basically, would be that America, Poland, England, whatever, we would have to put troops in the area. Russia, since like the 1950s, has been trying very hard to avoid dealing with American troops directly. So, for a country literally on their border, within walking distance between cities, to have American troops stationed right there, that would be, especially in Vladimir Putin, ex-Soviet's eyes, an absolute nightmare. However, if he were to take all of Ukraine, even if he were to just appoint a puppet president, he would still have to worry about NATO being right at his front door. That's why a lot of people have the fear that he will not stop at Ukraine. He will move on to Poland, Romania, Moldova. As it is, he's already shot down a few NATO allied things in the Black Sea. For the last couple of years, Russia has been accidentally crossing into American airspace in Alaska. It's been a very tense thing. In a way, the Cold War never really ended. It just got colder. At the moment, though,
Ooh.
it's been taken off ice and put in a frying pan.
What the hell kind of analogy is that?
It works, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
The Cold War isn't so cold anymore.
Taken out of ice and put on a frying pan. Holy shit.
Well, you've heard the analogy out of the pan into the fire, right?
No.
Well, I don't know what to say to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
I can't-
um,
I'm sorry.
anyway,
I'm sorry.
so, over the last week, NATO, pretty much all of the world, really, the EU, all of NATO, they have slapped several sanctions on Russia's economy. I believe currently the Russian ruble is only worth about the 0.009 something. It's worth less than the American penny, essentially. Um, and as the economy continues to tank, more people continue to slap sanctions on. We're slapping more on. I believe just today, March 3rd, Biden has said that they're going to start freezing Russian bank systems over here in America. So any Russian national who has dual citizenship, they're losing all their money here. It's just generally a very harsh thing on their economy. I have a few questions. So we're gonna open up the chat to the chat and of course voice to anyone in the audience who would like to talk about this. Our first question of the night is: are Biden's and to a wider extent the EU and NATO's economic sanctions a smart move? A lot of people have compared this, or at least I've been comparing it to at the end of World War One. Essentially, we're tanking the Russian economy for something their government is doing, but at the same time, we're punishing all of Russia. So, could this create another situation similar to post World War One Germany, where we essentially just reap hatred of America rather than doing what we accomplish? Audience is open, welcome to talk if they'd like to. They just have to request to.
What was the question?
Are Biden and to a lesser extent the EU and NATO's economic sanctions a smart move, or will it just anger Russian citizens?
What were the sanctions on?
Pretty much everything. The big one has been Russian fossil fuels, gas, oil. That's
So
the
it
big
just
money
means
from the
like they
government.
can't, like, I'm really asking what is a sanction? I'm sorry.
Basically, they cannot sell anything at the moment, really anything, outside of Russia itself.
Oh, okay. I
So,
think
like, go
I
ahead.
I think it was a good idea because I think maybe civilian uproar will cause, or at least they're hoping civilian uproar will cause like Putin to be like, okay, maybe this was a goofy goober decision and I should stop. Maybe. I don't.
Well, that's generally the idea that
Yeah.
it would enrage the Russian people towards their own government. But at the same time, it is very easy to say, "Hey, America is fucking us over."
Well, I um no, I don't think so. I think they would just start blaming Putin. I don't really know what's going on in Russia. I know more about like what's like the horrible stuff that's been happening in Ukraine. I haven't heard any opinions of like Russian citizens now that I think about it.
It's very hard to get information out of Russia because they're so heavily tight-lipped. Um, there have been massive protests against the Russian government by Russian civilians, but for the most part, those are a smaller amount compared to the greater Russian civilian population.
Mhm.
They've still been large protests, like within like the first 2 days of the invasion. The Russian military and local police arrested like 2,000 something people who were protesting. Um, so it is by no means a small movement, just on the grand scheme. It's not really speaking for all of Russia.
Yeah. I feel like this VC is a bit more about like what we know about the war versus like America's role in it actually.
It's it's a unique discussion because for the most part America stays out of Eastern Europe, mostly
Mhm.
because of Russia. The majority of our history is with Western Europe, England, Germany, all that.
That is
Um,
true.
Max, or Moxie, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, does have a question, but he doesn't want to speak. He is a little coward. He says, "Okay, so my question is."
And he's
He's
not
not even
typing.
typing.
Okay. I'm gonna uh if he sends an emoji, I swear I'm gonna ban him.
He is typing ever so slowly. Why didn't you have your question ready?
Oh. In the meantime, anybody can ask another question. Oh, thank you, Fondue. If somebody just says, I don't have a question. How?
We're doing pretty okay, Liar.
Okay,
How are you?
Leo. Yeah, Lior? Lior? Unit doesn't want to join because he's scared. But my day didn't go as planned, even though it never does, so I should be used to that by now, but it's actually extremely frustrating. But yeah, I ate today and food is really good, so that's something I always look forward to. That's my day.
Max's whole question was Svoboda.
I'm sorry?
A Ukrainian party, something like that. The Ukrainian, it's basically Ukrainian libertarians,
Okay.
like nationalist libertarians. That was his whole question. Just Svoboda. Thank you for your input, Max. We appreciate it.
Fondue asks, what were the leaks that the US started that the US started publishing before the invasion? Um
Um,
Raven was the one who did
we
like 8 years worth of research in like a week, so I'm gonna toss that question over to him.
who me?
Yes.
um, The leaks before the invasion, we knew essentially that Russia was amassing troops on the border. We knew that they were most likely planning some. That's why for like 2 weeks before the initial invasion, we were telling any American citizens, get the hell out of Ukraine. Um, because even though we couldn't really do anything, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word. Even though we couldn't do anything before the fact, we were still telling everyone to get out because we don't know. There's a high possibility, but we're not saying it is. So we definitely knew that they were going to do something big. I hate you, Max. We definitely knew that they were going to do something big. We just didn't know what exactly. As it turns out, recently we have found that there were some documents leaked to us. I'm not sure when they got leaked to us, but there are Russian documents showing that Russia was planning a full-on invasion since as early as January 3rd.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Again, I'm not sure if we had those documents before then, or if we just got them recently. They were just pretty much made public either today or yesterday. Does anyone else have any questions on sanctions or anything else to discuss?
Oh, yeah, the original question was, do we think sanctions are gonna work?
Yeah. To anyone that wants to ask, the original question was, are the sanctions that NATO and EU have made a smart decision?
Sketchwork has a question. Moxie, I am not doing this with you, okay?
Sketchwork, would you like to talk and ask your question,
I think he's gonna
or would
type
you
it.
prefer to type it out? Ignore Max. He is a communist. He does not get permission to answer questions. All right, sure. Just request to speak, please. Or I'll invite you to speak.
Okay, I didn't know
What?
what to do. Anyways, is there any way Ukraine gets Russia to piss off, or or is Ukraine eventually going to fall to Russia? And if they don't fall to Russia, is there any way they might even counterattack?
Oh, the big question. I want to
I think
reinstate.
Russia's gonna. I
Yes.
think Ukraine is gonna win.
I can't. I mean, like, I can't. It looks like they're defending, but I don't know how they can counterattack.
I want to reinstate. I'm not a professional.
Yeah, I know.
I
Just tell your
couldn't.
predictions. You seem like a smart dude.
I couldn't pinpoint Ukraine on a map until a week ago. I knew it was somewhere in the area. I just didn't know where. But in my opinion, Ukraine cannot win this alone. They've been doing very good, especially now we've been NATO and other surrounding nations have been providing a lot of supplies, medical aid, humanitarian relief. They've been doing very good. That being said, they're still a country that's only about as big as the southeastern United States, versus pretty much a nation that
A
takes up
global
all of Central
superpower.
Asia. Yeah. One that has had no qualms about bombing civilians. One that has no qualms about using illegal vacuum bombs. One that very well could still use nuclear weapons. I do not
What's a vacuum
see
bomb?
Yeah, I was about to ask
a.
that. I didn't want to sound dumb.
It sounds scary.
It is something horrific. Their
This
proper
explosion
name.
is so bad it goes in reverse and sucks everything up
Yeah, that's
instead
what I'm
of
thinking.
blowing it up.
Because
You're
like,
not wrong.
Oh,
shit.
Oh my god.
So okay, so let me explain. The bomb they use, it's called the father of all bombs, which is essentially a ripoff of a bomb made here in America that we've nicknamed the mother of all bombs. Um, but that's besides the point. Basically, their proper name is thermobaric bombs, thermobaric weapons. They are essentially a warhead of gas and fire. When they are released, unlike a nuclear bomb, which detonates midair and launches nuclear radiation about the area, uh, it doesn't launch anything, it sucks things in. Basically, its function is to essentially suck in oxygen in the surrounding area and create a giant flame burst. If you are not cooked in the immediate blast radius, you very well can suffer prolapsed lungs, crushed eardrums, your eyeballs literally popping out of your head if you're in the suction radius.
Ugh.
It was
Uh,
banned, basically, because of how horrendous of a weapon it is.
That's like
Um,
not
it-
even. It's like shit.
yeah. So, in terms of who will win this conflict, if it continues to just be Ukraine versus Russia, everyone loves an underdog story. Everyone's rooting, or mostly everyone is rooting for Ukraine.
I
But
don't
at the
think
end of the
Ukraine is
day,
gonna win.
yeah, at the end of the day, this is real life. And the nation that has the bigger, badder weapons that isn't necessarily unafraid of the territory they're in, they'll more often than not come out on top. So unless NATO, the EU, somebody else gets involved in this conflict, Putin has made it very clear. Defense Minister Lavrov has made it very clear. In fact, just earlier today, the Russian Defense Minister has said, or Foreign Affairs, wherever he is, has said that Russia will not stop this military operation until, quote, it reaches the end. So
Oh,
that right there is very threatening. Um, so unless somebody else gets involved and essentially not even takes out Russia, just bullies Russia off Ukraine, poses a big enough threat, or calls Vladimir's bluff, uh, that Russia will back off.
I
Go ahead.
Okay, good for me.
that's actually kind
Thank
of
you for
sad.
joining us today.
Do you think? Thank you for your wonderful question, Sketchwork. Um, do you think America has the power to stop Russia?
I mean, today, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Pentagon, for a long time, since this has been going on since the 1950s, Russia versus America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Russia has always made it very well known that they are pretty much a power next to America, not below America. They have nuclear weapons, they have a large soldier mass, they were against us in the space race. They're not like, Vietnam or buttfuck nowhere. They are a world superpower. However, that may have all just been propaganda and fear mongering.
Mm-hmm.
Because today, the United States Pentagon has said that, according to their information, 90% of Russian forces are already in Ukraine.
90%.
90%. So, like, all of their forces are already in Ukraine. And they're not doing too hot at the moment in Ukraine. They're doing a lot of damage with artillery, but when it comes to terms of head-on-hand combat, they're losing to the equivalent of a bunch of rednecks that have been giving anti-tank guns.
Yeah, that's I find that interesting. This is a bit of a side note, but when I was taking my class about the Civil War, um, one of the big advantages that the South had, even though they lost, was the fact that they're fighting in their own territory. It was
Yeah.
the it was the North who were in land that they weren't familiar with. Like even though they had better artillery in the same way Russia might, they're still not on their own turf, and Ukraine has like sort of the upper hand in that kind of way because all they have to really do is defend, and it's not as strategic as having to attack.
That's a big point you brought up at the end there. It's always easier to defend rather than attack.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like it wouldn't be too much of a disadvantage because compared to someone like say during the American Civil War, somebody from northern Massachusetts going down to southern Georgia, they're going to be in a completely different environment.
Mhm.
They're going to be in sweaty, mosquito, alligator-filled swamps. Somebody going from western Russia to eastern Ukraine, it's just going to be like, oh, I've never seen this field of snow before.
True. Yeah.
you know, it's like, oh, look at that. It reminds me of home, another
Yeah.
field of snow.
Yeah.
You know, um, so I wouldn't say that it's not so much the familiarity aspect, but it definitely is easier to defend than it is to attack. Another big thing, and it's really alleged. Neither nation is going to be trusted to confirm this, because obviously Russia's going to deny it. Obviously, Ukraine's going to posture it a little bit. There are reports that some Russian, not just individual soldiers, whole battalions and groups have defected from the Russian military. Um, a lot of the soldiers that they're sending are basically just kids. They're 18, 19, and they're just sending them off to what a lot of them believe were just a military exercise, not a
Oh,
full-on
wow.
war.
That's horrifying.
That's exactly that's why you're getting a lot of kids that are just going up to Ukrainian forces and surrendering because they're thinking that they're just on like a training mission, and next thing you know, they're being ordered to shoot civilians. Um, there have been a lot of soldiers that have surrendered so far, confirmed through video recordings. Uh, but there have been a lot of reports of whole battalions outright refusing to enter Ukraine and deserting. Um, so again, it's not so much the foot soldier that's a problem in Ukraine. It's the non-stop artillery bombing, vacuum bombs, and God forbid nuclear warheads that Russia has at its disposal. When it's come to soldier combat, Ukraine's been doing fairly well.
Mhm.
The problem comes in when, like, say you live in Ukraine, you're just going about your daily life, and next thing you know, a artillery bomb gets launched right next to your car, blowing up a building.
Oh.
Next thing you know, a children's hospital is falling to pieces. Next thing you know, there's Chechen soldiers sniping you from a distance. That's where Ukraine is having issues in the distant technical fighting, because Ukraine just doesn't have the technical prowess that Russia does.
Wow. I feel like there was another question. I think it was fondue.
Max, if you keep spamming the voice request, would you like to speak, Max? I've invited you to speak. I'm kicking you. I'm kicking you from. Hello, Max. How are you tonight? Fuck you. I, I'm not allowing him in here again.
Okay, Fondue asked a few minutes ago, would it be possible for the U.S. to provide PMCs to Ukraine? Once
PMCs. I'm not a military expert. What are PMCs?
post-military cucumbers. Post-military, primary military conflict.
Are you like looking something up or you just guessing?
I'm just taking wild guesses. Let's look it up.
PMCs. No, not PMC Bank.
PMC Bank.
What is PMC's Army? Private military contractors. Okay, well we got two different things because I looked up and I get preventive maintenance checks. But yeah, private military contractors.
Military contract.
Moxie.
So many. Okay, private military company.
Private military
Okay.
contractors. Esther, do you know what private military contractors are?
I see private military companies, but I'm just gonna take a swing because I think I'm a good guesser. But isn't it like, I guess like the US giving them their own military, like a piece of the American military? I'm looking right at the definition. A commercial organization whose employees are paid to carry out military or security duties in cooperation with or the place of regular military formations.
Yeah. Do you remember how I go ahead?
No, go ahead.
Do you remember how I told you that the Azov Battalion in 2014 were essentially hired by the Ukrainian government rather than like being an official part of the government?
No.
Great. I had a whole. I discussed the whole part about that. Okay, so basically,
I'm sorry.
private military contractors. Yeah, they're soldiers for hire. They work for a company, essentially, or an individual, rather than a government.
Oh.
They're mercenaries. They're
That's
mercenaries for hire.
so cool. Wait, do they get training by the government?
Some of them are ex-military themselves. Some of them go through specialized combat training. A lot of them are ex-military, especially here in America. They're like ex-Navy SEALs or something like that. But generally, they're not aligned to any government, though a government can hire them.
Okay.
So, like, say the U.S. military got rid of the draft, right? Or just say they wanted to do something without really having direct ties to them. They would hire mercenaries. Basically, what Fondue is asking is, could America hire military forces or hire mercenary forces and send them into Ukraine as a way of... I'm just guessing this part is what he meant. As a way to assist Ukraine without putting NATO allies in there, without angering Russia.
That would actually be a pretty good idea.
It would be an interesting idea if Ukraine doesn't join NATO or EU. However, I don't know. I don't see our government doing something like that. I don't see the Biden administration specifically doing something like that. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I can't really tell you. That feels like a very gray scale type situation. The whole idea of like mercenaries for hire is a very gray area. Because they've been known to do some pretty horrific things. Especially in like the Congo and South Africa.
So
that when you're a soldier for hire, you don't follow the Geneva Convention.
I
You don't really have rules. You have a paycheck.
Oh, I see the problem. Okay.
So I don't see the Biden administration doing that for Ukraine. I don't know. Maybe CIA will do that to keep tabs on Russia because they've been known to do their own
Oh
fucking shit.
yeah.
But I don't know about Biden going to Congress and saying, "Hey, give me $5 million to hire some mercenaries." Yeah, I don't see that happening. It would be a interesting idea, though. It could definitely
Sounds like a movie
be
type of
a
thing.
alternative solution. It does have like a very theatric sound to it. Does anyone else have any questions they want to bring up? Not Max.
Let me look really quickly.
Oh, Reaganades. Reaganades has a question.
Reganades. Re-grenades.
Reagan. I'm calling him Reagan. What the hell, Max?
Is anyone let's just read the question. Is anyone aware of the current relationship between Zelensky and Putin? Even with the chaos, I still don't think it's past the point of negotiation.
Esther, do you know anything about Zelensky and Putin?
Honestly, I think just yesterday was the first time I saw Zelensky's face, and I was like, "Oh yeah, they have like a whole like president." Like I'm over here thinking like
They just had like a goldfish in a suit.
a dog and on with a hat or something. I feel
Ukrainian president is just a pig in a bow tie.
Okay. Let's be serious. Yeah, I saw a picture of him, and I was like, okay, that's Zelensky. That's pretty much all I know about him. He
Have you
smiles a
seen a
lot.
photo of Putin?
Yes. I love the wide Putin meme of him walking through the building.
Before I answer the question, off topic, did you know Putin's only like 5'8", 5'10"?
Yeah, he looks short. He doesn't look that tall. Oh, well,
Really?
okay, let me
I
not
always
say
thought
that
he was
5'8"
like
is short, but it's...
But that's still like I always thought he was like 6 foot something.
Oh my
You know, the
god,
guy's
no.
like muscular. I always thought he was huge. I'm taller than him.
You're taller than the president of Russia. That's hilarious.
I will bring Ukrainian peace by putting Putin in a headlock. I'll give Vladimir a noogie.
A noogie?
What Willie his ass?
It's funny because you did say like 5 minutes ago about bullying Russia to the point where they don't want to. And you're just gonna bully the hell out of Putin.
There we go. I'm gonna save the world by giving the president of Russia a swirly.
You're gonna give him a
Don't sit down,
wedgie?
you nerd.
A wedgie. Beat him up at his locker. Take his lunch money.
That's the new U.S. sanction. I'm just gonna take his lunch money. Anyway, so to answer your question, Reaganades.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Zelensky, again, he didn't really have a massive political career. He was a comedian, an actor, and are you okay, Esther?
I'm sorry.
He was a comedian, an actor, and then he was again so good at playing the president, such a charismatic person. He ran for president and won. To my knowledge, before this conflict, him and Putin didn't really have too much of a relationship. Vladimir Putin, even though he's not like Kim Jong-un in the aspect of being completely shut off from the world. He is a very private world leader. He only ever really talks with other world leaders in major matters of concern. Um, like I don't think Biden and him, since Biden's election, have even had any like open discussions with each other. Which is a major thing because almost everyone talks to the United States president. But Zelensky and Putin, no, I don't believe they have much of a previous relationship. Since the invasion, Zelensky has taken on a bit of a national identity or international identity. He is the face of Ukraine. So naturally, he's being pitted directly against Putin. They did have a peace meeting, I believe either yesterday or the day before, a few days ago, rather. And while we don't know the full details of the discussion between them, Zelensky walked away from it and basically said that Russia's demands were insane. Their demands were... I have a list of them, hold on. According to Zelensky, God damn it, where is it? Okay, according to Zelensky, Vladimir Putin at the peace talks basically demanded that in order for peace to happen, Ukraine must, 1, completely demilitarize, 2, recognize Russian ownership of Crimea, and 3, remain, quote, neutral towards NATO and the EU. In other words, not joining them at all. So that's not a great start to a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
To basically tell the leader of a sovereign nation that he has to get rid of his entire military and essentially offer his head on a silver platter. I'd imagine they don't have a brotherly relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since, according to Zelensky today, there was a assassination attempt on him earlier that was foiled by Russian or Ukrainian military forces. And I imagine the Kremlin, Putin, would be the one to have ordered that hit. So I don't believe they have too much of a friendly relationship, and Putin doesn't really have that with anyone in the world, except for maybe the Chinese leader. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? No, you don't, Max.
Juby, were you able to get in? I don't know if she was able to get in.
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay. Hey, Juby.
Hello, Texas girl. How are you doing?
Call me Texas girl.
Did she say don't call me Texas girl?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
She immediately mutes herself. Okay. Just looking at the chat. Even if you don't have a question, you could also make a statement, your opinion on anything stated out here. Max, if you start typing, I will not be interested. I will not be reading.
I'm just gonna ignore Max.
Yeah.
He really tagged me in a whole ass rant that said, "Don't deafen me, you dumbass. You don't even know what sex is or what the fuck." He called me a pathetic, slimy ass. Mumbling idiot, asshat, fucking annoying, irritating, you obnoxious little brat. I'm older than you.
No, you're
fucking
not.
buffoon. I will kill you.
Okay,
you are
okay,
nothing.
okay,
You are
okay.
worth. It's a whole fucking rant. It ends in, everyone hates you. Don't mess with us, or I'll make sure to fuck you. Thank you, Max. Beautiful, beautiful letter.
There's so many times I'm so close to taking Max seriously, and then he does that. A follow-up debate. Yeah, I would like to see not Putin. What's the other one's name? Biden.
Zelensky.
No,
Oh.
Biden do that whole like conference again and not be so picky and choosy about who gets to talk and who doesn't.
It certainly would be interesting. An open discussion between Russia, because let's be honest here, the big players in this game are Russia, obviously Ukraine, and potentially the United States. That may be a American-centric way of looking at this, but Russia isn't really afraid of, England or Poland.
Mm-hmm.
It's America that they're really up against here after Ukraine. Fondue asks, what do you think would happen if Ukraine wins? Esther?
That's a great question.
That's a really great question.
It depends on when and how. That's it. Yeah, it just depends on how. It would probably be a miracle based off of my interpretations of how this is going to go down. If they do, it'll probably be a massive celebration. I don't really know Putin. I don't know what Putin is really about in the end of the day. So there's that. So I really I'm not like 100% sure if if what would happen, but I think that's a good thing to explore. I wish I was a bit more into politics and history. Back to you, Raven.
I saw a funny joke.
Oh
Not
no.
funny. It was like ha ha, I guess. It was like made me breathe out my nose a little faster than usual. Funny. It was like a cheesy dad joke type thing. It was basically said that like Vladimir Putin opens up a fortune cookie and says you will die on Ukrainian holiday. And the joke is that any day he dies will be a Ukrainian holiday.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought people liked Putin. Is that
No,
wrong?
not really.
Oh,
Not
really?
I mean, he's been like a meme person.
Yeah.
Like, big, like funny, haha, Russian shirtless man, ride bear. But as an actual politician, he's been a pretty horrific person.
Oh, wow.
Especially in the eyes of Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
What do I think would happen if Ukraine wins? What's your definition of win, Fondue?
I would say, not to speak for Fondue, but I would say, I think they want their independence. So I would say maybe getting their independence.
Yeah, that's base level.
Yeah.
Fondue is typing. Hold on. No, you're not, Max. Your turn is when the stage ends, buddy. Yeah, probably got dumped because you're so annoying.
Dang. Don't make him cry over Melissa like that.
You literally should have seen what I said to him earlier this week.
Oh,
when
no.
he said to me, I had Valentine's Day. Where was yours? I told him, I bought myself a bottle of wine. I still have the bottle of wine. Where's your Valentine?
Oh my god.
Anyway, Fondue, I asked Fondue what his definition of win is. He said they pushed back the Russian invasion to the Russian border. That is a very I don't want to say unlikely. It's a very it's one of many outcomes, and honestly, best case scenario, like Reagan just said, that is a very baseline best case scenario. That they push it back to the Russian border. I don't see that happening. I don't see it going just to the Russian border. I don't see it staying in Ukraine if Ukraine falls. I don't see this at all staying as Ukraine versus Russia. A lot of people say, like, oh, it's going to be World War III. I don't want to fear monger and say, oh, yeah, it's World War III, get ready for the nukes. But it is a very strong possibility that it could be a larger world military conflict. Even if it's not a straight up military conflict, it could lead to a larger, well, it already is a large world economic conflict. So what would happen if Ukraine were to win? I would say that Russia would face, like it already is now, essentially an economic depression.
Yeah.
Again, it brings it back to what I was saying about post-World War I Germany. My fear in that situation is we'd be essentially laying the seeds for a Russian Hitler in a way, if that isn't
Oh.
what Putin already is doing. Somebody that will just prey on the Russian people's anger and hatred, and feed into that and rally it to something much more worse than what Putin is possibly doing. That's worst case scenario. Again, best case baseline, it just pushes back to the border. I see it as maybe another country gets involved. Russia comes under heavier sanctions. Ukraine might lose a small part of eastern Ukraine that has already basically surrendered to Russia. But I'm not really sure, honestly. At this point, the war can go any way, and I don't have a definitive answer. I'm not smart enough to give
Yeah.
an answer on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's really about like looking at like the rest of the world as well. Like no one really predicted where the pandemic was going to take us. Nobody predicted, or at least nobody was like 100% sure, you know, even this 1 week was so unpredictable. So how long will it
I'm the
last?
opposite.
I have no idea. Maybe in another year this is going to look differently. Maybe America will be much more involved in a month. Maybe next week is going to be absolute chaos. It's
Honestly,
really up in the air right now.
Fondue said they don't need to beat them, but cause a fallback, to which Reagan aides replied, very unlikely with Russia's firepower and mindset. And that's where I'm pretty much at. There is no way to just basically, even if like all of the Russian military defects, even if like we kill all of the Russian forces, even if all of them surrender, Vladimir Putin, he isn't going to surrender. He has had no qualms about using very lethal, deadly methods against Ukrainian civilians. He's had no qualms about arresting a large amount of his own country's population. He has had no issues with, earlier today, in fact, the Ukrainian government reports Russia pointing artillery weapons at their own country, most likely to form a false flag. Putin himself will not lose, so to say. And I feel like that's the big fear. Because if it comes down to it, Vladimir Putin may just be angry and crazy enough to start a nuclear war. At that point, He's not losing. Everybody is losing. Form a false flag. I mean, basically launch artillery shells at their own country and blame Ukraine on it. They've already done it. Russian forces have hit a Russian airfield on the outskirts of the nation and blamed Ukraine for it. Esther, do you have anything to add on that?
Um, no, not really.
I'm sorry if I made you afraid of nuclear war. I know nuclear warfare freaks you out.
Of course it does. I don't want Vladdy Daddy to start the nuke war.
Max, this is your last question. Your last chance to ask a question. If not, I'm just ignoring you completely. Reaganade says that nuclear war is indeed something to be afraid of, and yes, it is.
Yeah.
Especially since Russia has made the largest known nuclear bomb to date, the Tsar Bomba. I don't have the exact measurements on hand, but basically, after being run through simulations, if the Tsar Bomba were to, say, be dropped in the middle of Central Park, Manhattan, radiation would be felt as far as the Carolinas, essentially. So, like, almost all of the northeastern United States, and even parts of Canada, fucked. Just a complete nuclear wasteland.
That's crazy.
Maximus's question. You think Putin be wilding with the invasion?
What? What?
Yeah, man, he's wilding out over there.
Yeah.
He's on
I
some
seen a
real
meme on
shit,
TikTok. I think it
God.
went viral. It was like a Putin like face. What is that called? Face.
What?
What is that word?
What word?
When people put your face on somebody else. What's the
Deep
word?
fake?
Deep fakes. Yeah. It was that. And it was Putin being like, "Am I the drama? I'm not the drama. I'm probably the drama. Am I the drama?" Just
Catman says, didn't the Tsar Bomba almost kill the dude in the plane who dropped it? Yes, it did. It was such a large blast that the pilot that dropped the bomb during its test almost did not make it back alive.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And like I said,
And he
Vladimir
just
Putin's
his
already
first words when coming back to consciousness was, "Yeah, it works."
I think you could find video of it actually being tested. It is a huge explosion. It's interesting, really, because it's not like the U.S. government itself is afraid of testing nuclear bombs in America. I mean, the hell, if you go out to
Where do
like
you
Arizona,
test that?
White Sands Missile Range in Arizona or New Mexico, it's in the area. It's essentially part of the desert that's just used as a giant nuclear missile testing site.
Wow.
So if you go out there, you will find mass amounts of radiation in the sand. You'll find pieces of glass in the desert.
I mean, wouldn't I die just by being there because of the radiation?
I think at this point in time, it's safe enough for people to be out there. Not recommended because it is government land still. They will shoot you.
Okay,
Uh,
cool. Good to know.
but yeah, you could technically still go out there and survive. That's why they pretty much tested it out there. It's the middle of nowhere, nothing. Um,
Before
I
your
don't think the
vacation
pilot
to
was listening to
Arizona,
Chief.
you might get shot by the government. Thank you for telling me that.
Well, that's why. That's why everybody from Texas to California is insane. They have radiation poisoning.
Oof.
Ain't that right, Juby?
Oh no.
Why do you think Unit's insane?
Oh man.
I'm disappointed Unit's not here. He has a
Yeah, he
lot
does
to say
not
about
want to talk about
Ukraine.
Ukraine. I think it makes him cry on the inside. I did have
Yeah,
a
it's
conversation with the gay menace. That is his username. I'm not using it as an insult. Um, I had a conversation about whether or not he thinks Trump would have prevented this from happening, or the war would have never happened if Trump was still president, and he did not like that. He did not like my question. It made him very upset, and he started ranting in my DMs. And
let it be known for the record that the gay menace is a menace that is gay. He's not a menace because he's gay. He is a menace that so happens to be gay.
yes, this is true. I think he would like that clarification if he were here.
That is a interesting question, and this question is being presented to everybody. Do you think that if Trump was serving a second term, that Russia would have invaded Ukraine?
Doubt.
Yes, Max. You're allowed to answer.
Oh God.
I may not read your answer, but you are allowed to answer in the chat. Do I think, though, that Russia would still invade under Trump? Yeah. Trump, he was pretty much, in my opinion anyway, a Russian puppet. The guy, I think just a few days after like a day after the invasion, he literally called Putin a genius. He was literally being impeached because he was withholding military aid from Ukraine. So yeah, I 100% think that Russia would still invade on Trump. Anyone who says otherwise is just a Trump supporter that doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion. That's not like statistical fact. It's just my opinion.
I think I'm sorry, Gay Menace's comment. He said Trump, with a horrible diplomat, and the administration was well known for not sending enough diplomats to meeting around the world. He was friendlier to Russia. He saw the greatest degradation of the United States global stance since the end of the World War I, when we refused to join the League of Nations. If people think that Trump would have done better, they are likely just looking at the way he in America with his posturing, when you should be looking at how he interacted with countries in terms of diplomacy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing. One thing that annoys me a lot about nationalist people, especially in America, is that they seem to think that in the year 2022, where we are getting people flying around the world into space and all that fun shit, where we have people connected just by the press of a button, where right here on Discord, me, some schmuck from New Jersey, can talk to somebody from Ukraine or Russia or Israel or whatever. It annoys me that people think that we can just basically say, nah, fuck it, America's not going to be part of the global stage anymore. That gets me, because whether you want America to be the world police or not, I agree, Rainey, Israeli does. You know what? I'm not saying that on record. I'm not saying that I'm recording. Where was I? Whether you want America to be the world police or not, you can't really just pull America out of the world stage. We don't necessarily have to be the world police, but we can't just become some isolated little gremlin nation that nobody talks to. Um, we would very so much be involved. So people like Trump supporters or Trump himself who want to do things like pull us out of NATO, ignore any foreign diplomacy. You can't do that when you're a country like America that's connected to everything.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of Russia, yeah, definitely. Trump was very buddy buddy with Vladimir Putin, and again, he was withholding aid from Ukraine. So I don't see in any way how Trump would have stopped this invasion. Because again, going back to when we first started stage, this isn't like the first time Russia has had this with Ukraine. They did this in like the early 80s when Ukraine separated. They did this in 2014 over eastern Ukraine and Donbass. This isn't new. Ukraine versus Russia isn't a new thing. And anyone who thinks that is, in plain terms, no offense, an uneducated American that is just ignorant of world affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, no, Trump would not have stopped it. Does anyone in the chat want to join the voice or have any questions to type up? Any statements on that?
Statements, comments, questions, concerns. We are open to all except for Max.
Yeah, correct. You have a question? Fondue is typing as well. Sketchwork, would you like to join and ask, or would you like to type it up?
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
question.
Rainy is raising his hand. Let me allow him in.
Oh, Juby has a question as well.
It's not really related, but whose Discord keeps going off?
That might be me, because I'm gonna close my laptop.
What's
Or
it
just
about?
mute it. You don't
Rainy,
have to close your.
I'm lazy.
Okay.
Rainy, welcome to the discussion. How you doing?
Hi, Rainy.
Hey, I'm doing all right. You guys doing good?
Yeah, it's good
Doing
to
pretty
hear from
good.
you, Rainy.
Yeah, so just one thing I wanted to mention, it's not in response to anyone, it's just sort of like my take on the whole thing is that the US shouldn't get involved, you know? I mean, because there is no benefit. I mean, if you're just thinking about benefit for the country itself, there is nothing to benefit, so they shouldn't get involved. And you might be like, it's kind of a cool thing to do, but then you got all of Europe who ought to get involved because it matters to them. You know, they're close enough for it to matter. Unlike with the US, at least. That's just what I think. Might be wrong.
Would,
Open to changing my mind.
would you feel that? I mean, most of Europe, most of Western Europe anyway, is really in the North Atlantic Treaty, NATO. So wouldn't you feel that America has a responsibility regardless?
I don't think they have a responsibility for anything like that, you know? Like, it's sort of like a none of their business kind of thing.
I see. Would anybody like to, Esther, what do you think about that?
I think that. Oh, that's. I understand the whole none of your business type of thing, but at the same time, kind of bouncing off what Raven had said, I think that America is an extremely powerful country, and anything they do kind of has like a domino effect. So I think either getting involved or not getting involved has its own consequences. As simple as like, well, this ain't got nothing to do with me. It may have something to do with countries that are a part of that affect Ukraine that may also affect the United States. So, like maybe there might be allied countries that want to help, and America being the most powerful is it's like, you know, Ukraine might get help from their siblings, but not from their father. I'm putting the US as the father in this situation. And so it's like, I don't know, like it would be hard for America to maintain relationships with other like sister countries of Ukraine if they don't do anything at all. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It kind of reminds me of one thing I was taking in history class, which is it's called white man's burden, but I think at this point you could just think of it
Oh.
as like the American's burden. And it
Mhm.
was that whenever there was like a war or something, you America always like felt the need to come in because they were like the civilized people. They were
Yeah.
in the right, so they've got to help. We're the we're tough, and we've got to come in and do something about it, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was thousands of miles away. So I just think it's kind of at that point, where America, because it's so strong, they have this kind of obligation to do these things. But
Yeah.
where did that obligation come from? It doesn't really make much sense to me, I guess. I mean,
I
but there
th-
was that
Um,
one good point about like the nations that America, might offend by not helping Ukraine. I think that's a good point, or a point to consider.
yeah. Yeah.
um,
I think that I think politics, and economics and social issues kind of all affect each other. So maybe America has like economic relations with a country and political relations with another, and those countries are intertwined. So it's like, does America have that responsibility to help in a war? Maybe not, but probably does have the responsibilities to help the franchises that they may have in those countries that are affecting them, and they're probably in need of economic help from our government because they're not doing well in other countries due to their political situation. It kind of gets really, really, it's sort of like a rubber band ball, very intertwined at this point,
uh,
especially in American history.
Going on that intertwined point, I want to say that America, Esther, you mentioned a domino effect as well. Um, in a way, America is responsible for. I don't want to say responsible, but America has played a hand in this invasion way back in the 80s when we struck a deal with Ukraine on removing their entire nuclear arsenal. And I said that when you have a nuclear arsenal, even if you just have like one nuke, that is a great equalizer. That puts you on footing with everybody else.
Mhm.
Um, and part of that deal that America made for Ukraine to get rid of their nukes was, hey, you don't have to worry about it. We'll protect you. And you can make the argument that because that deal was made way back in the 80s under a different administration,
Oof.
when the Soviet Union was still a thing, yeah, you could, I guess, argue that that deal goes out the window, but it's not really a strong argument. We still made the deal as a nation to Ukraine that we would protect them in case it ever came to it, and it's not like we ever had anything saying that the deal is null and void.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know about that. I didn't know there was like this whole deal thing about them, uh, taking away their nuclear arsenal and that they'll protect them. I think if you have that, it kind of doesn't make sense at all for America to not help. That's pretty weird. I had no idea that even happened.
Yeah, it's just one of those little facts of history that goes easily forgotten.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
know that until like a few days ago.
Sketchwork says he has something he wants to say about what Rainey said. Sketchwork, would you like to join the discussion? Adding you in. Hold on. I'm ignoring you, Max. Welcome,
Everyone's bullying
Sketchwork.
Max.
Hey, so I want to say something about like so the thing about Ukraine and Russia. it's like nearly the entire world is against Russia right now. Like
Hmm.
it's not very often that we have so many people agree something's fucked up.
True.
So if you have nearly the entire Earth against something, then it's pretty safe to say they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. We're very rarely on the same page.
And I mean,
Yeah.
would it benefit us to help Ukraine? I'm not entirely sure because maybe it will, maybe it won't. But if Russia takes Ukraine, like what Raven said, when are they gonna stop?
Well, I'm the thing is that's not just my point. Earlier today, President Zelensky, he actually said that he's been saying for the last week, but he reiterated again today that Russia will not stop at Ukraine. Even the Pentagon has had fears that Russia will not stop at Ukraine. And if you think about it, if they take Ukraine, let me pull up a map so I can show it in the chat. If Russia were to take Ukraine, they would have easy access to pretty much all of Europe through Ukraine. Let's see here. This is a good map. Yep.
What I mean is, even if it doesn't benefit, even like I actually kind of think it would be in our best interest to stop Russia. But aside from that, even if it wasn't, what they're doing is definitely wrong. And if we just turn a blind eye to that, then we let them run rampant.
Oh yeah, that right there, that's a major argument right there. That forget us, letting Russia commit several war crimes is already a major issue. But if I just posted a map in the chat, if you look at this, besides Belarus, if Russia were to take Ukraine, they would have coastal access to Bulgaria, the Mediterranean, Romania. They would have access to inland access to Slovakia, Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania. And through all those nations, they could go right on in to Germany, Austria, Italy, basically all of Western Europe. They've already threatened nations like Estonia, Finland, and Sweden, which would give them access to northern Western Europe. It's
It's not
Russian
looking too good.
aggression. Yeah, Russian aggression is a very major problem because just like Nazi Germany, it would literally be Nazi Germany in reverse. You know, instead of the Nazi forces moving eastward, it would be the Russian forces moving westward, taking each nation as they go. It would not be a very healthy spot to be in. It would lead to a lot of death, destruction, and again, a all-out world war. Or at the very least, an all-out continental war. Yeah, can you repeat that? You did not come in very clearly.
So Putin's like a modern day Hitler.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
propaganda and art pieces have been depicting him as Hitler, actually.
isn't that what happened? Whenever Hitler would, World War I and stuff, nobody jumped in because it was in their best interest to look in the other way.
Well, it was a
Yeah.
world war. There was a lot of people involved. I mean, who else could have jumped in?
America didn't want to jump in. That's pretty much
Oh, yeah.
been a golden standard for America. We like to be involved, but when it comes to war, no, we're just gonna sit it out until something happens.
Yeah.
And even the Russian people, a lot of them are against this, but yet they're being forced through this, and they're going to get punished because of their leader.
Yeah, that was a point I brought up earlier. That through our sanctions, even though we're heavily hitting the Kremlin, we're mostly hitting all of the Russian people.
So it's
They are
pretty safe
taking
to
the brunt
say
of this.
it's pretty safe to say that Putin is a war criminal. And we all agree.
Oh, 100%.
I don't really this might be an off-topic question, but I don't really understand what a war criminal is. Like, is it just the fact that you started a war? Is that what makes you a criminal?
Well, before Rainy Sketchwork, were your questions answered? Are you good?
One more thing. It's like this is unrelated. Do you think that's possible that Russia may have even a civil war in some point
Oh.
in time? Like, is that a possibility?
I'm going to reiterate again. I'm not an expert on Eastern European conflicts.
Quick disclaimer: none of us are professionals or scholars on any of the
I'm an
subjects.
idiot.
No, bro, trust me. I play Hearts of Iron 4. I know what I'm talking about. Let me decide what Russia's gonna do. Just trust me.
So yeah, quick disclaimer: I'm a fucking moron, but do I think there could ever be a Russian civil war? Maybe.
Perhaps.
Russia
Maybe
is
not.
maybe not. I don't know.
You
Russia's
never really know.
Russia's a big ass nation.
Yeah.
Like they're absolutely ginormous, and they're made up of several different cultures. They're made up of European Muslim cultures. They're made up of Asian cultures. They're made up of like fucking snow people, the White Walkers from fucking Game of Thrones. They have a lot of different cultures with different interests and political views, and even
They'll
though they
have a
have
civil Cold
local,
War.
yeah, they'll have their own civil Cold War. Even though they are all under the order of Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin, they do have local politics, local leaders, all that. I don't know enough about inter-Russian politics to say otherwise. I will just say it's possible, especially with this dividing conflict. It is certainly a possibility. Do I see it happening within like the next 2 months? No. I feel like it's a little too much for Russia to do that right now, but who knows? So Sketchwork, is your question answered?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, if you
Yeah.
want
They'll
to
probably have like a Great Depression before they have a Cold War or a Civil War.
Yeah. So Esther, you want to know what a war criminal is?
Yeah.
You are a war criminal, Esther. I'm sending the FBI to your house right
No
now.
way.
They're coming for you. You're wanted for crimes during
If
the
I don't know what I
Afghanistan
did, it
conflict.
wasn't illegal.
You're wanted for siding with ISIS.
No way. This isn't funny. He's joking. Please.
I'm not joking. They're on their way right now. Esther's gonna get swatted any minute. Biden's gonna have to hold a speech about how they got her.
No. I haven't done anything. Please.
Yeah.
Tell it to the
Anyway.
judge, bitch.
Yeah, say that when you're in fucking Guantanamo.
No.
Anyway.
Can you please answer my question genuinely? I'm scared.
Yeah, let me pull up the dictionary definition of a war criminal before I start going on my idiot rant. What defines a war criminal?
Hey Siri.
According to Wikipedia, a war crime
Sorry.
is
I'm sorry,
according to
your voice
Wikipedia,
cracked. I'm sorry.
That's why I go to jail. I'm not used to talking this much.
I'm sorry.
According to Wikipedia, a war crime is a violation of the, quote, laws of war that gives rise to individual criminal responsibility for actions by the combatants, such as what Russia's been doing. It's pretty much the list of Russia here: intentionally killing civilians, intentionally killing prisoners of war, torture, taking hostages, destroying civilian property, wartime sexual violence, pillaging, the conscription of children, committing genocide. It's just a list of Russia,
Okay.
basically.
All the pictures on the side
basically-
are just Russia.
It's just Vladimir Putin. As the name. Yeah, basically, there's the old saying that all is fair in love and war, except it's really not. For a very long time, there have been rules of conflict, normally agreed upon on official declarations of war. There is a Geneva Convention, which is like an internationally agreed upon statement. A lot of people think the Geneva Convention is something brand new. It was written during the Civil War, in fact. So the American Civil War. It is a old thing. Basically, I'm not gonna sit here and list every Geneva Convention rule. General rules are: you don't kill medics, you don't go out of your way to kill civilians or surrendered people, you don't kill unarmed combatants. So, like, say if you're in a fighter plane and you shoot a plane and the guy ejects, you're not supposed to go after him and gun him down in your plane. You kind of let him go to the ground.
Okay.
Russia has been very heavily bombing civilian areas. Like I told you before, they bombed a children's hospital. They bombed another hospital and killed 2 patients within it. They have conscripted Chechen soldiers, and the Chechians are infamous for being rapists, butchers, etc. They're basically just committing a lot of war crimes. Of the more recent war crime variety, the use of the vacuum bombs. There are also reports of Russian forces disguising their military vehicles as Red Cross vehicles, which is a violation of the Geneva Convention, impersonating Red Cross.
That's so terrible.
Yeah, basically they looked at the Geneva Convention, they took a little marker and they've been checking it off as they go, essentially. They're using it as a checklist.
Wow. Okay, now I understand war crimes.
And you understand why you've committed all of them.
No, I don't understand that part.
Yeah, play dumb.
Fuck you.
I'm sorry, I know you're not playing.
I'm so scared. Please don't tell people that. I am just a college student with massive amounts of debt. Leave me alone.
Let's see. Fondue has posted I believe that's a Churchill quote. You can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate. I mean, it took like a week for Biden to start sending military aid after like slapping 5 sanctions on Russia.
That is a Churchill quote. Wow.
Let's see. We had another question, I believe. Scrolling for our DMs, it's just a whole conversation about cooking salmon.
I'm sorry.
Okay, here's one I didn't really ask yet. I touched upon it a little bit. As of today's
Curtains
date,
versus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
red pillar, blue pilaster. Lamps versus curtains.
No, it's not lamps versus curtains. It's blinds versus curtains.
Oh no, my bad. It's doorknobs versus foam soap.
No, close enough.
Anyway, as of today's date, the 3rd of March, 2022, 2 NATO allied vehicles, I believe it was Romanian, a Romanian jet, and just today, an Estonian cargo ship have basically, we know that the Estonian cargo ship was sunk. There was a massive explosion. It went down the water. We don't know what caused that explosion. But the Romanian fighter jet, that just disappeared. We don't know where that is. But basically, both of these vehicles have disappeared off the coast of the Black Sea, presumably to Russian forces, because I don't know where else they're just going to disappear to unless the Kraken is out getting them. That, in addition to President Zelensky stating that Putin will go after Western Europe if he takes Ukraine. And also today, the Czech Republic has basically given their civilians the okay to go to Ukraine and fight Russia for them. Do you think that the greater NATO allies like England, America, Germany, are they going to have to get involved eventually? Like, by force? Regardless of Ukraine? Because Russia is not holding any punches. If they sunk a cargo ship, again, they've basically killed civilians of Estonia. If they took down a Romanian fighter jet, they've killed Romanian soldiers. Do you think, Esther, at least for you, Esther, or anyone
no.
really in the chat, do you think we're gonna have to get involved regardless of Ukraine?
Yes.
What do you think, though?
Why'd you put me on the spot?
Because you're co-host.
That has nothing to do with it. I don't like labels. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna have to get involved, and I think it's. I mean, basically, you're essentially asking if there's gonna be like another like world war, right?
In a way.
Yeah. In a few years, perhaps. I mean, just going off the fact that like, like everybody knows that Putin most likely isn't going to stop at Ukraine. Yeah, I think just that fact alone is probably going to get other countries involved, especially if America doesn't do anything. If they don't do anything, I feel like another country is gonna try something, fail miserably, and then America's gonna have to get involved because they needed us anyways. That's my sort of straight to the point opinion. I'm sorry if you hate it.
I feel like America should have learned its lesson after World War II. That kind of being a giant neutral superpower isn't a good idea because it eventually comes back to bite us in the ass. Like, we knew for a long time that Germany was doing shit in Europe. We knew for a long time that there was some pretty horrible shit going on. We didn't do anything until we were forced to because Japan bombed us. So I feel like at this point, America should know not to just wait around.
We're gonna wait around anyways. Just like that Churchill quote.
That Churchill quote is a good one. Say what you want about Winston Churchill, he had some very good points about military and war. Yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts on that? Because I feel like I agree with Esther in that aspect. We shouldn't wait around, but we are going to.
Yeah.
Does
We're
anyone else have
just
anything
the
to say on
master procrastinators.
that? It's really America. Just do
We
whatever we can to not do something.
we just keep saying it's not that bad until it's that bad, you know?
We do that with a lot of things, don't
Yeah.
we? COVID, debt, everything.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. We're saying as we're falling into massive debt.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. We
Student
say
loan
as we
debt,
get bombed.
homelessness. Yeah. Human
It's not that
trafficking.
bad.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad, you know?
That's not even like a new thing.
It's
It's not that bad. Abraham Lincoln says the Confederate States are formed. It's not that bad. Hoover says as people live in tents in Central Park.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Abraham
will
Lincoln, what
agree.
could possibly go wrong? It's assassinated in Charlottesville spoof. No,
Reconstruction's on. The South isn't that angry. They're
they're
fine.
not.
Anyway, I'm gonna go to the opera.
The KKK starts forming. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
JFK is just sitting there, like, you know what? The CIA isn't that important. They're not gonna do that. They're a little mad. They're not that upset though.
They
They'll
can't
get
be
over
that
it.
upset. Come on, it was just a little oopsie daisy. What could possibly go wrong?
It was just a little defunding. They'll be fine. They'll get over it.
Yeah. Okay, what was the question?
The question was, will NATO, or specifically America, be forced to get involved at some point, regardless of what happens in Ukraine, just based on Russia's aggression to other nations?
Yeah. Russia's being a
Does
bad
anyone have
boy.
anything to say on that?
Guys, not all at
Um,
once.
I will be right back. Actually, Esther, you take control. Have fun. I'm just gonna go
Okay.
pee.
Okay. Hey guys. Hey y'all. I was not meant to be left with this amount of power. I'm actually gonna look in our DM. There were a few questions. And I don't think we mentioned this before, but this is going to be on our YouTube channel. So um yeah, this is going to be on our YouTube channel. So if you want to follow, if you want to subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. Not going to push it. It's totally cool, but you do get access to our question of the day archive channel when you do follow. And you get to see the question of the day suggestions, and you can make suggestions for a question of the day yourself. So yeah, let's take a look. Wow, our conversation derailed very, very quickly. That question was asked. Anybody has any comments, you guys can make comments in the chat. I will read them out loud if you want me to, or if you want to be muted. That's cool as well. If only there was some way to put intermission music, like elevator music right now. How's everyone's day? That's a good question. That's a good crowd pleaser question. No one seems to be pleased though. You just beatboxing? That is great. I wish I could beatbox. I'm not very good at it. I think overall this event went extremely well. I am gonna wait for Raven to get back. There probably isn't too much to say beyond this. Excuse me. Excuse me. But I think this event went really well, pretty smoothly, except for Max. I am going to chug an entire bottle of water once this is over. I forgot what's that holiday? St. Patrick's Day is. Oh, you want to say something? Do you want to be unmuted? Do you want to be invited?
I am back, and welcome Reaganades.
Okay, perfect timing.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Welcome. How you doing?
Hi.
I'm doing all right.
That's
I just
great.
want, I just,
So, what do you want? What do you want to say?
I just wanted to say I just wanted to say there's like three possible outcomes for this whole Ukraine war scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It's either Russia dying, or
Oh.
Ukraine surrendering, or USA and NATO intervening and just ending Russia, I guess, in the whole conflict.
That is true. You don't think any other country is possible of ending the war? It has to be the US.
Well, I mean, in all
I
honesty,
said NATO and USA. I mean, I said NATO and USA,
yeah,
so it'd be
Oh,
he
yeah,
did. He
yeah,
did say
yeah.
NATO.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like regardless, though, if NATO gets involved, America will be forced to get involved. 'Cause that's kind of what NATO is.
NATO is America.
Well,
The
that's
United
what NATO
Countries
is
of America.
That's what NATO is America. It's that if NATO is basically a big club where if you go to war, we all go to war.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I think that it pretty much does boil down to those three options.
Yeah, and I think the biggest deterrent uh from NATO and USA actually getting involved right now is nukes. Nobody wants a nuke war.
That's the big one. Russia, what was it, Monday, Sunday, something like that. They did put their nuclear defenses on high alert. So God knows what they're planning. Like I said before, even if all of the Russian military surrenders, Putin will not be surrendering. So I don't see him going out without pressing the big red button. Not to make
That's
Esther
scary.
afraid.
Just me. No one else is scared of nuclear war. It's just
Well, I
me.
know everyone's afraid of nuclear war, but I know like every time it's brought up, you specifically get very nervous about it, and it's a valid concern. It's not like it's irrational.
Yeah. I mean, I just know, like, hey, I probably won't have to do homework, so.
That's scary, man.
It's really scary to think about how many times we've come like this close to nuclear conflict over something like misreading a blip on a radar. All it takes is like a computer malfunction, and we're like, "Oh God, the nukes are coming."
True.
It's rather stupid. I try not to bring like too much media into it, but when dealing with things like politics, and it's easier to look at things like media and pop culture in retrospect to past politics. You know, hindsight is 2020 and all that. But I feel like if you really want to look to a certain media that really what's the word? Lampoons modern politics. South Park is a great way of doing it. Because they have such a very fast production rate. That they really do comment on current politics. Like just yesterday, they released an episode about the Russian conflict and Vladimir Putin and all that. In it, they had a joke where somebody hacked into what is it? I can't think of the acronym. But basically, the part of the U.S. military that handles like air conflict and nuclear launch codes.
Mm-hmm.
They basically hacked into that and just spammed over their computers. Russia is nuking us. Russia is nuking us. All it takes is something like that happening, a rogue individual, a computer error, and that's it. Everything goes to hell. So it is scary to think about deliberate nuclear warfare, because in the context of this war, that is a possibility. It isn't like, oh, North Korea is gonna nuke us. This is a very real possibility of having one nation getting nuked.
Hey, was Japan the only nation that was nuked in history?
Japan?
There's only been one nation that was nuked, and if you think about it, what we nuked them with was tiny compared to what most nations have nowadays.
Yeah, it only takes one look at it to say, man, we ain't doing this again, man. This shit too destructive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody want a
Exactly.
piece of that.
Exactly. What we hit Japan with was, in terms of nuclear bombs, a pea shooter. Even that was massively destructive. If Russia or America or whatever were to use nukes today, it would be catastrophic devastation.
Yeah, that's why USA and NATO got to really think about their stance on the war. It ain't too cut and dry. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
not
not
black
at
and white.
all. Not at all. Mm-mm. I'm scared, bro. Because whenever I think of war, I think of like stuff that I haven't lived through. Now I gotta tell my kids about the war of 2000 and 2030. You know? Like, that's scary.
That is an interesting. When thinking about like American, I don't know a better word to use than ignorance, or just American bubble life. War is something that a lot of Americans don't experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even these last like 20 years in the Middle East, that hasn't really affected most Americans. We don't really know about war. So now to have this televised on our phones and in our TVs daily, it's a big thing.
Extremely.
Fondue had to leave us. He said, "Enjoy, everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight, Fondue."
Thank you,
Uh,
Fondue. Thank you for boosting the
but
server as well.
yes, thank you so much. Before he left, he did say it's pretty much the U.S. and all other nations holding pom poms. Right now, yeah, it's pretty much what it is. Though, like I said, the Czech Republic did give the go-ahead for civilian volunteers to join the conflict, which is a workaround in a way.
Well, I'm gonna hop off and go eat some cornbread.
I
What y'all
understand.
gonna
All
eat?
right.
What y'all eating tonight?
Thank
I
you.
actually do have cornbread as well. My
Wow.
sister made cornbread yesterday, so I'll have some too.
I have a box of Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuits.
I'm jealous.
All right, fancy. You eat lobster, but okay.
Have a good
All
night.
right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank
All
you for
right.
joining us, Reaganades. We appreciate you being here.
I forgot to ask him
Yeah, man.
if we've been saying his name right. Reaganomics.
Reaganomics. I've literally become Reaganades. So
Reaganades. Re-grenade. I don't know. Oh.
Reaganodds.
Regandade. Okay, I'm sorry.
Regandades. Regondola.
I think that's yeah. Yeah. Do you think tonight has been a success?
These are never successes.
No, I think this went great.
No,
Raven.
this one. This has been nice. This has been a nice discussion. Wish more people were joining in. Understandable though. We didn't pick the best night for this. It's the middle of the week.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. But no, this was a very productive discussion. I feel like we've definitely established between us and whoever listening anyway, our feelings and our predictions on where this conflict will go.
The
Ultimately,
professionals we are, yeah.
yeah, the historians and political professors that we be.
I'm a political scientist.
Weren't you actually taking political science?
Yes, I was, and I did take a comparative politics class, and I don't remember a single thing.
Dropped out.
Guys, I know what I'm talking about. I took a semester on this.
Look, I'm literally a professional on Eastern European conflict. I read the Wikipedia page.
You know the meme of the kid going, idiots! Like, I have studied this for literally hours. Okay? I know my shit. Me to my
I've
professor who
literally-
studied it for like literally 3 years.
I've literally scrolled through the Ukraine hashtag on Twitter for like 2 days. I think I know more than the US government. When's the last time you saw Biden using the hashtag, huh?
Literally.
Again, I'm very sad that our user Unit could not be here tonight with us. I'm sure he's busy doing
not.
something.
No, he's not. He's not. He's probably playing checkers with his little sister.
Honestly, he's probably playing Hoi 4 with his My Little Pony mod.
Oof.
I've just thrown him under the bus with that one. No, seriously, I wish Unit could have been here. His family is from Eastern Europe, specifically the Russian-Ukrainian region. He has some very strong opinions on it. I believe his father actually fled the Soviet Union. So his family does have some very direct connections to this conflict. I would have loved for him to be here. As an Orthodox Christian and experiencing that, he would have been great here. Yeah, I know he's Uzbek, not Ukrainian, but again, like the general area. Again, just sad he couldn't be here tonight. I would like to thank everyone who was here, however, except Max. I hate Max. Everyone else has provided some very good commentary, some nice predictions, and a lovely chat setting. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Shout out to you all. Have a wonderful night and see you hopefully in the next episode or
Whenever that may
discussion.
be.
Yeah, whenever that may be. Whatever
this
that
is
may be.
technically an episode of Call-In. We just didn't do the usual introduction.
Yeah.
Before we go, I would like to say, you can join in on conversations like this by joining the iDebates. That's a lowercase I, capital case D, iDebates Discord server. We have ads on Discord and iFunny. You can also join us on
We
our
don't talk
YouTube
about
channel.
iFunny.
We do not talk about iFunny. I am the Raven, formerly known as Evolutionary Research, and this has been Queen Esther. Thank you.
Hi. Bye.